Hi, this is the module Automation Pro within DataMiner sysadmin. And in this module, we'll take a closer look at how to bring your automation scripts to the next level. So we're going to leave behind the UI where we had the drop downs to define all the actions with the gets and the sets and all of these things. And we're going to dive into C# automation scripts and even take it to Visual Studio. That's what we will look at in this module. So let's get started. So first of all, what's on the menu? So we will take a look at the automation scripts, more specifically the C# version of it, how to create that, how to work with it. And we're also going to do that from Visual Studio and see how to do that in Visual Studio. And even I'm going to show you how to do it with GitHub with some CI/CD as well. And then we're going to take a look at two more use cases, you could say, where we will take an automation script and publish it as an API, a user-defined API, and a Teams bot action. So that from an API or from Teams, you can call this automation script and you can basically get some return values back in Teams or in your user-defined API. And some exercises at the end, but we will do some different exercises throughout this module. All right, so first things first, automation scripts with a quick recap. So we already went into the automation scripts UI where we have all our scripts on the left-hand side. We can create some folders, add scripts in there. So we do all of that management. We have already looked at it. Previously, when we were creating an automation script, we were just relying on the actions which are in the drop down there, and we added actions like generating an information event, getting a parameter, setting a parameter, changing the element state, assigning. So all the different actions, you can just organize them, add them under each other there, and see in a human readable way very easily with drop downs what is happening there and what you want to do. That's all working fine. We have explored that, but there is one special item in that drop down, the action C#. You can just mix and match and just put one C# block in there. But typically what developers are tending to do is just add one big block C# in there and nothing else, because they can do a lot more and a lot faster in the C# than using the UI and the drop downs. And that's exactly what we will do in this session, explore what that C# block can do. So first of all, we're going to take a look at how to do that in DataMiner Cube. And as you can see here, we will be able to have like a basic code editor. We will jump to Visual Studio later on. But there is already a basic code editor in there so that you can very easily take a look at any automation script in your DataMiner system without the need of Visual Studio. You can just go there, select it, or create a new one. That's what we will do in our first exercise, and start typing in there. It gives some code highlighting. It also gives you some IntelliSense. So you can, for instance, type, yeah, you are interacting with engine. That's the automation engine. So that's the way you talk to DataMiner. So you ask things to the automation engine. For instance, engine, exit fail or exit success, stop with it, or find me an element. So you can ask DataMiner or the automation engine to do certain things. So that's really your entry point, you could say, into the DataMiner system. So this editor also gives you some IntelliSense so that you know which kind of methods you can ask to the engine object. And also if you have, for instance, elements, that's an element, an IRD element, it will give you certain methods that are available there. Just be aware you're in a very basic IntelliSense environment or code editor. So you do have to make sure you are following certain rules, like an element should start with the keyword element or EL. Same thing for like a parameter. So you do have certain things you need to make sure that you are following those rules before the IntelliSense will be available in this editor. But of course, we will also jump to Visual Studio where we will have a little bit more professional development environments. There is also a basic validation. We'll take a look at that in our first demo. So let's jump into my DataMiner Cube. I'll be doing all the exercises of this module on my DAS system that I created in our fundamentals part. So I still have my demo system running in my BERT training organization in the on DataMiner.services environment. It comes along with a Microsoft platform, which is monitoring my node itself. I added a data source and some other things on there, an element myself, and I deployed some anomaly detection or anomaly augmented operations package from the catalog and all of these things. I'm only going to use the element which is already on there by default, so you can just spin up any DAS and you will be able to follow this exercise. I'm going to play a little bit with the total processor load I have there. So let's jump into the automation and let's take a look on how to work with that C#. So you know, you can add a script there with the buttons or the right click menu. Just going to use the button there. You can give it a name and immediately start jumping into adding one block there, C#, and I can start. So in basically 2 clicks, you say add scripts, add C#, and I can start. Note that I'm deliberately not going to use any of those dummies, parameters, memory files that we have been using before. It is possible to use it, but I'm not going to use it here. You can take a look at the regular automation intro module on what that is, but here we're going to focus on the C# part. So as mentioned, you need to interact with engine dot, and you will indeed see certain methods that are available in there. Now, to get you started a little bit, we do have a small trick. So you can right click on the code editor and go to sample snippets. And there are certain things in there that you can already take a look at to get started rather quickly. For instance, information event. Let's just keep it very simple, and we're going to ask to the engine object generate information event and just go for a hello world. And let's just do that. I can just validate this. What is this validate? It says no errors. It's just checking synthetical problems. Like if I would forget a semicolon, it would say like one error detected there. You can see it's like the red line underneath it. So you can see that there is a semicolon expected. It's a very basic, it's not going to do some compile errors or anything like that. You need to go to Visual Studio to get some more. But it does something, okay? No errors. And I can just save this script as I was able to save it before with regular actions and execute this. Execute, let me open up the information events. And you can see the hello world is popping up there, generated by my script, which has the default name automation script. How original. So that's how simple it is. I can very easily just start adding some more things in there. In the snippets, remember, you can just say, for instance, if I want to do some kind of getting a parameter. Note this editor window can be very small and rather quickly. So just you can at the bottom open it up a little bit, then scroll up a little bit more so that you have a little bit more screen real estate available for your editor. Okay, so I still have everything above that, but now my code editor is a little bit bigger. So you can see here this get parameter that I added. What is it doing? Well, it's actually getting a parameter from a dummy. And this dummy, where is this dummy coming from? Well, this dummy is from the engine. It's getting the dummy IRD. So this is the way you work with dummies. So you would need to add here a dummy with the name IRD. And if you execute it, it will ask you for the dummy with the IRD. And you can get that dummy here. And then from that dummy, you can do a get parameter and start working with that dummy. So that's the same way that we have been working before in the previous examples. As I mentioned, I want to do it a little bit different because one of the things that is possible in a fixed automation script here or in an automation script is to work with a fixed element as well. So let me just remove this, and I'm going to do something myself, and I'm going to go to the engine object. And there are some interesting things like find elements. So you can do a find element by name. That's what I will do now. Later on, I will do a find elements in view, for instance, with some other example that I do. So just gonna start for now with a find element. And note, what do I need to provide now to the method? So the IntelliSense will also help you out if you open up your parentheses that it says like, okay, there are actually two ways of finding an element. You can see it, one of two here. And it's first of all, you can specify the string name. So it's by name or by ID. So let's take a look at the second example. Indeed, there it says by DataMiner ID / element ID, or two IDs, DataMiner ID, element ID. So you can find the element ID if you go to properties of your element. That's here, DataMiner ID. The first ID is DataMiner ID. And the second one is the element ID, which is 2. So this is the more robust way, you could say, of finding an element that's using the ID, because if I ever rename this element, it would not have any influence on my automation scripts. But for now, I'm just going to go with my DataMiner agent, which is not the most robust and recommended way, but it's just an example. Now, you could say like, okay, but how do I capture this find element into something before there? Well, therefore, you can also you can open up the first parentheses again, so that you can see the what it's returning. So you can see it's returning an element, and there's always an example, which is also very interesting. So you just basically type over the example. So it's not that difficult. So you just say element, and then we did already engine find element, so we type beforehand, before there, element equals. So it will capture that element into that element object, and then we can say element dot. And what can we do with an element? Well, it has a couple of properties, like it has a name, it has an ID, all of these things. And yeah, a whole series of things are in there. You can see with the scroll bar, there are quite some things in there. I want to just get a parameter, and I want to get a get parameter, just get parameter, the first one, there, get parameter. Open up the parentheses, and I can see just by name or name and index. Name and index is then you specify the column name and you specify the index. That's for an index is with columns or tables. But you can also go by bits, or bit is the parameter ID. How can you get the parameter ID? Well, you just double click on your total processor load or any parameter, and you go to the details, and there you can see the 350 there. So the ID is indicated there. So let me maybe do this one with the just 350, the parameter ID. Again, take a look at what it's returning, object val. So a value in an object. So let's go and type object in front of it. And yeah, you can, instead of val, you can also type, for instance, CPU to make it more clear that it's the CPU that I'm returning. And then I will enhance, instead of putting my hello world at the top, I will now remove my hello world, and I will just output that into my current CPU is, and then I do plus CPU string. All right, something like that. So I will generate now an information event information event. Instead of just a hello world, it will show me the current CPU with CPU to string, and the CPU is coming from the get parameter 350 from my element my DataMiner agents. Very simple. So let's save that and let's execute that and see if my hello world is now changed indeed. So my hello world is now changed to current CPU 5.1, execute it again, still 5.1, execute it again, still 5.1. And there it is, 11.1. So it is now and then changing. I think the refresh rate of the CPU load is like 10 seconds or so. Okay, so that was our very first C# automation script that we added in the editor of DataMiner Cube. So you can see DataMiner Cube already gives you quite some goodies to be able to create a decent automation script and leverage that C# automation script block. Yeah, maybe one more thing in the advanced, there is a possibility to reference other namespaces in the .NET environment, other DLLs, but a little bit more advanced, I would say that's not typically something we need from the get-go. Okay, now to take it a little bit further, a small step further, is that instead of just having one script all the way going like from top to bottom, we can also, of course, go more object-oriented. And to be able to do that, we can use this kind of structure we have here. And your automation script must contain a public class with the name script, because it will basically create and instantiate such an object. And then it will call the method run, and so this method must exist, and it will give you the engine object. So this is the entry point of your automation script. And here you can do your magic, and then you can jump to other methods and start doing all the object-oriented programming you want. So instead of just basically starting these 3 lines directly into your C# editor, you can build this kind of environment where you then go into object-oriented programming. So the first version was basically immediately just going into the run methods. It will automatically encapsulate it in the run method. You can define that whole structure in here. But instead of typing all of this, I will now do exactly this, but I will leverage Visual Studio to be able to do that. So let's take a look at how to do this within Visual Studio, because Visual Studio will already give me the wrapper around here, my code that I can type. So I don't want to type these things around it, so I want Visual Studio to help me out. So instead of going into creating yet another automation script in here, so maybe I should give it still a more meaningful name, save script. So I have my CPU script that I created before. I will now create also a second automation script to mask all the elements in a view, because I have some view I deployed before with a bunch of elements in there. So that was a package I deployed from the catalog. And basically, I want them to easily be masked with one click of a button, all of them together. So that's what I will do. And I will create that automation script not in here, but in Visual Studio. So I jump now to Visual Studio. In order to prepare this module, I did already install Visual Studio. So if you don't have Visual Studio yet, you can install Visual Studio. You can download the trial version, or you can also get a community edition if it's not for commercial use, for instance, for training purposes or for open source environments. Once I installed Visual Studio, which I have here in front of me, I did also install the DIS extension. So if you, let me see if I can find some more information on DIS in our docs. So we have, do we have somewhere the DIS, that's more the release notes? No, that's not what I want. Development tools. Here we have DIS, there it is, about DIS. So you can find more information about DIS. So that's a plugin into Visual Studio. And there is also some additional videos on how to get started with it and all of these things. And you can download that basically. That's also more some information in here on how to download it, how to install it. But it's basically available on the marketplace of Visual Studio. Now, there is one thing I had to do after I installed it. So after you install DIS, you will see you have this DIS extension here. But DIS nowadays also comes along with starter projects, basically. And if you click on File, New Project, you should be able to see some DataMiner items in here. They are at the very bottom here for me. If you don't see those DataMiner items, you might need to check your options. Go to Tools Options, then you go to Nuget and you go to Package Sources, and you should make sure you have the nuget.org item in there with this URL, https API nuget.org/v3/index.json. If you have that one in there and you restart Visual Studio, it should come along with those starter projects there. So I installed Visual Studio, I installed DIS, and now I have available the possibility to go for new projects. I don't want any projects provided by Microsoft Visual Studio, but at the very bottom, in my case here, I have some DataMiner items in there, and I'm more specifically interested in an automation script. So let's go for a DataMiner automation script. So I select that one, click on next. I can give it a name, mask elements in a view. That's what I will do. Okay, let's create that one. And the automation script itself can also be called mask elements in view. All right, author, I don't really care. Okay, so it's going to create a project, and this project will create a bunch of things. I don't really need to worry too much about all of it. Let me see why it doesn't show up my... Let me see. Let me just close this and open this up again. Why it's not showing, not sure. Probably doing something wrong here. Let me open up this project again. So my Solution Explorer should show me this. Okay, there it is, or maybe I waited not long enough. So I have my solution mask elements in view. There are some companion files with some markdown in there, DLLs, documentation with markdown. There's some internal stuff with some code analysis. I don't really need to worry about all of these things. This is not something I want to discover now. I'm just interested in these scripts, and there is that one script that I'm interested in, mask elements in view, and I'm interested in that C# thingy there. So I want to go into the C#. And here, I don't need to build that class myself. So the DIS will automatically create this public class script. Make sure you have that run object method in there, and there will be, well, still a wrapper here with a try catch. So it's trying to do everything according to the rules, more than I ever expected. So it does a run save, and then basically the run save is done here. And to do, define your code here, so I can start typing here engine dot what is it, generate information events, and my hello world. I can add again hello world, voila, etc. And I have my automation script I can type. Now, I will immediately do a little bit more, but just to check it out that my hello world is working, or maybe I should say hello world 2, because it's my second hello world. Well, just to show you the easy way of deploying this kind of automation script to your DataMiner system. So now I'm leveraging the editor of Visual Studio. If I now want to test it out, I can just save my automation script. You will see that this C# is linked with this file mask element with the XML file on top of it. So you can click on that one. And if you click on that one, you will see that there's a publish. And you can see it will publish to the DMA BERT, my demo BERT training. Well, why is that? Well, I did a little bit of preparation here. Within the extension DIS, you have your DataMiner agents available. Well, I already have my DataMiner agent in there. Well, that is because I went into the settings before in the preparations, and in the DMAs, I added my URL demo Bert training on dataminer.services, and I provided a username and a password. So it is already configured. So you might need to still configure that. That's a one-time configuration. Okay, so once you have your DMA in there, there will be by default a local host in there. I removed it. So I connect to my DataMiner system. You will see it will connect to my system, executing a connect. So it takes a second to connect there and trying to connect. And I guess it will be connecting. Yeah, connected to DMA. So you can see I'm now connected to the DMA. So now I will be able to click on the publish. You can click directly on the publish, then it will go for the default one, which is only one, or you can click on the arrow and choose your DataMiner system. So just to make sure that you realize what is happening here. So currently I only have the CPU on there. So I will go for publish DMS and immediately I have it there. So you can see it's executing an upload package app to the DataMiner system, and I'm expecting this to be popping up. There it is. Mask elements in view, it's added in there. So I have it here, and you can see your automation script is added in there with your hello world 2, and you can execute it. Execute now. And you can see the hello world is popping up there at the information events. So that's how easy it is to create an automation script in Visual Studio. The first one I created in here. The second one I created in Visual Studio by starting with a new project here and just going to my C# here, typing something in there in a full development environment. And then I clicked on this linked the XML file, and there I can publish this XML file, which is my automation script. Okay. I don't want to go for this version, so I want to further enhance it. So I actually want to show you that in here, you also have the snippets available. So you can also here right click and go to some snippets and insert a snippet. Or there's the shortcut, so what is it, Control KX. So there you have DIS snippets that are available, and there are some protocol or connector things in as well. Here I'm interested in automation script, some class library things, and I want to go for mask elements in view. So actually the, well, maybe the hello world, I can now say masking all elements in view. Just generating the information event that we are executing this action. And now I will go and mask all the elements in a certain view. So what will it do? It will ask to the engine object find elements in view. I told you that I was going to use this one beforehand there. So I'm going to find all the elements in the view. So again, if you open up your brackets there, you will see the view name is expected. There are some other items as well, like view ID and things like that. You can further trim it down to certain protocols only as well. So there are even some more overrides, but I'm going to keep it simple and I'm going to go for, let me have a quick peek. I'm going to do it within the DataMiner catalog view. So everything in the DataMiner catalog view. Yet again, maybe I should use the ID of the view and not the name of the view, because if I ever rename this, this would be no longer working. Fine. So, and in this case, the find elements is actually getting back in, as you can see in the tooltip, an array of elements. So elements with the square brackets. So so it's here captured in the elements enumerable, and then it will do a for each element in elements. And it will ask for the element. So we have, again, different actions you can do. And one of the actions is the mask action. And then you can provide a reason for masking. And you can also, with the override, have the amount of seconds there. And that's what I will add. A different second argument there with the amount of seconds, which will be 10, for instance. So it's going to mask it for 10 seconds and then stop it, automatically unmask. Okay, so I just used the snippets and I just typed in a view name and I tweaked it a little bit so that it will automatically unmask again after 10 seconds. Okay, I think I'm quite happy with my result here, but I can save it here in Visual Studio. But let me go back to my DataMiner system and let me do a bold thing now and delete my automation script, because I don't want to work this way. I want to go and do it a little bit different. So instead of doing a direct publish from my Visual Studio and going into the XML file and publish it, I want to do it through GitHub, because I want to manage my code in a more professional way, and I want to be able to work with multiple people on the same code base and have decent version management. So therefore I want to leverage GitHub. So I have here the possibility to create a Git repository from within Visual Studio. So this is just standard Visual Studio stuff. So in here, we will take this code base and put it in GitHub. So let's create a Git repository and I'll go for GitHub. All fine, all default. Don't really need to worry too much about all the things. I'm gonna drop it into my GitHub account that I have already previously configured and linked to my Visual Studio. And I'm just, the repository name, mask elements and view is also fine. And actually I'm going to make it a public one. Then I can easily leverage the actions for free in GitHub. So you can do that on your private GitHub as well. If you go for public, then you can use the GitHub actions, which I will do in just a second. Okay, so I just published that and put it into GitHub into my private repository. Into a private repository. So what's the result? Well, you can check it out by going to GitHub and then view pull requests. It brings you immediately to my private GitHub, and it created a repository there. If I click on it, mask elements and view, it has all the necessary files in there with that solution.xml, and there will be some project files in there with that C# in there, where you will find indeed my masking for my elements. So that's now all nicely in there in GitHub repository. Okay, perfect. I can share that now with my colleagues, and we can start working with multiple people on there, have nice versioning and all of the goodies from GitHub on there. So I already took it a step further, where I not just have only the code available in DataMiner, but I have a real GitHub repository here. And from there, I can now open that up in Visual Studio and work on it. And then I can still use the manual publish by going in here and publishing. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to take it even a step further. So try to bear with me on this one, and I'll quickly show you how to use GitHub Actions. So instead of publishing the script from my Visual Studio here directly to DataMiner, which is the publish button I used before, I want to take my code, I took it into GitHub, and I want GitHub, upon every change, to push it to the DataMiner system directly. So let's take a look on how to do that. And in order to do that, I will leverage from GitHub the actions. So if I take a look to my repository and I have all my code in there, I want to add certain actions. Which actions can I add? Well, I can set up a workflow myself by clicking on Setup Workflow myself, and I can just type contents in there. I don't really like typing, so I will just go to our docs environment. And we do have a section here on CI/CD, and we have more specifically CI/CD using GitHub. And I have some GitHub example workflows there. So if you would search on GitHub CI/CD examples or example workflows, you will find this page, or you can navigate to this. By the way, I started from the home page into the developer documentation, and there you have the CI/CD, and there you have the using GitHub and example workflow. So I'm at the example GitHub example workflows, and I will take this very first one here with an Ubuntu runner. That's perfectly fine. You can just copy all this text. So on the right hand side, I can click copy. Yes, it copied. So I copied this thing, and now I just paste it into my workflow. So this is a workflow. What will happen? We can take a quick look at it. So whenever a push or a pull happens on the master branch, it will do certain actions. So that's the triggering part. Which kind of actions will it do? Well, first of all, it will do a deploy, and that's actually the only thing it will do. So this is not full validation and checking all of the quality and things like that. It's a basic, just quick deployment. That's the only action which is in there. So it's going to run on Ubuntu, it's going to check out the code, and it's going to install certain things to do the magic. So it will first of all create a DataMiner app package, a DM app package, and then it will upload it, and then check and then do a deploy onto my DataMiner agent. Now, okay, so GitHub has the code, so it can create the package, that's fine. But how can it talk to the upload and deploy? How can it talk to my DataMiner system? Well, therefore you can see that there is a secret here, a DataMiner deploy key. So let me copy that. So this secret needs to be defined, and let me open up the settings in a new tab page. The settings of your, so I'm opening the settings of my repository mask elements in view in a second tab page. And there you have the secrets and variables, and I have the actions, and I can create a repository secret here. So I'll create a secret in my repository with that name, DataMiner deploy key. The DataMiner deploy key, that's the token or the API key, so that GitHub can validate themselves against DataMiner.services to be authenticated and say like, hi, I want to deploy this automation script here. And then DataMiner Cloud will say, indeed, you have this key here. I recognize this key. So you are allowed to deploy that onto this BERT training system. So I need to allow, or I need to generate this key in my BERT DataMiner system. So I go to DataMiner.services. Let me see if my session is still active. No. So let me make sure that my session is active. So I'm in my BERT training. I have my demo system there. I go to the admin. Within, okay, again, authenticate. And then we have our DataMiner system demo there. And in there, I have keys. And I can define a new key in there and give it a name, GitHub, create. And with this key, basically, the DataMiner or GitHub will be able to deploy things on there. So I have a primary and a secondary key so that I can rotate keys as well. So I copy this key that I just created. I now go and paste this into my secret here. Note this secret, I'll by the time this video is available on live, this system will already be removed, so no worries. Typically, you would not make this secret anywhere available, and this would be super hidden because it would allow people to just deploy things onto your DataMiner system. So this is a super secure key that you don't want to share with anybody here, but this is something that will be immediately removed again afterwards. So I don't need to worry about this in this video. But you need to worry about it. If you create these kind of secrets, they are secrets for a reason. They have the name secret. Okay, so now if I go back to the file, so it will be able to upload with this token onto the catalog, and from the catalog deploy that onto your DataMiner system. Note it's using catalog here, but here it doesn't really publish it in the catalog yet. To be able to publish it in the catalog, you need to have a more decent name and description, author, and all of these things, some metadata. I didn't go into those details here. That is something you can discover yourself if you want to publish it into the catalog. We're only a small step away from it, but I'm not going to cover that. I'm just going to upload it. I'm not going to publish it in the catalog. I'm just going to upload it and deploy it onto my DataMiner system using this DataMiner deploy key. Okay, I believe I did what I wanted to do. Let me quickly check in my demo system. So I don't have this mask elements and views anymore. I removed it, so it's no longer there. So let me see if that will come back if I now let these actions execute. So what I will do, I will commit my changes and commit directly yes. What will happen is because something changed in the repo and something has been added there, it will, in the actions, immediately start the first run. So there is already a first workflow that is now being executed here because I created the main.yaml file. I created this actions file. That's a change in the repo, so it's being executed. What is being executed? So it does this deployment and it does all the things and it's deploying the package. So yeah, there it is. It just deployed onto this package on here. And now I have my system or my package being deployed here. So this is a different way of working where you're not publishing it directly from your Visual Studio, but your Visual Studio is pushing it to GitHub, and GitHub is deploying it onto your DataMiner system. The advantage is you can work with multiple developers onto that repository in GitHub, and whenever you do commits on there, or whenever you do the releases, you can define all of these things when it needs to happen. You can deploy that onto your DataMiner system. And that's a nice pipeline you start to build. It's only deploying, but in your actions, you can add more things to start doing some validation, some checks, some unit tests, whatever kind of things you want to do as control gates before you say, oh, this is a good version, I'll deploy it onto my system. And maybe only on, for instance, certain releases you're creating in your repository. So you can also trigger on whenever you have releases, it goes maybe to production, and otherwise it's going to staging environment. So we can build all of these things there. So let's take a look at how that works now, because we didn't check out our masking all elements yet. So we now created our second automation script with masking all the elements in a certain view. So the view was DataMiner catalog here. So you can see all the elements here. They are not being monitored, but anyhow, you can still mask it. So you'll see it with the purple. Let us execute that. Execute now. So you'll see it's all executed, and after 10 seconds, it will automatically change again to unmask all of those elements. There you go. Maybe I'm not happy with the 10 seconds. So if you ever want to change something, do not change it in here, of course. I need to go back to my Visual Studio, and I can go to the 10 seconds, and maybe I want to change that to, let's say, 5 seconds. Let me save that. If you ever want to change that, then you need to go to your second tab page. So just to show you, because it's out of screen, or maybe I should have used removed myself just a second. So here you have the Git changes. If you click on there, you go to the Git changes tab page. So on there, you can give it a name. So changed timing. And then you can do a commit all, or I should have said commit and push. Create it locally, and now I need to push it. You can also click on the arrow icon to immediately push it there. So I made my change, and then I committed and I pushed it to the repository. So let's take a look. If I go to the actions, you will now see that a new change has been detected and pushed by Bert Vandenbergen. So some changes coming in. So automatically what is happening, again, the deployment actions are being executed. So it's creating the package, it's checking the output, maybe some additional control gates you added, and it's going to deploy that onto my DataMiner system. So let's go to my DataMiner system. And you can see it is already changed to 5 seconds in the meantime. So now my 10 seconds has been changed to 5 seconds. And if I now execute it, it will only be 5 seconds and return right about now. Okay, just to wrap it up, this final exercise, or not this final exercise, I still have some more exercises, but this exercise, I want to show you just one more thing. If I go back to the Solution Explorer, so maybe I can do it like that. So I went from Git changes back to Solution Explorer. So if you go into your Solution Explorer, you do see that you have in your solution, you have one script, mask elements in view, but actually you can add more scripts into one solution or project. And there is another possibility. You can right click there, and instead of creating a new automation script in there, you can also take an existing automation script or import one from your DataMiner system. And I can basically take the CPU version that I created previously in the UI of DataMiner Cube, and I can also import it in here, so that now I do have, next to my mask elements in view, I also have the CPU automation script in there, and I can see I have my code in here as well. So now I can basically import automation scripts as well to add them to existing solutions or create new solutions with it, and start moving away from the editor in Cube and start using and leveraging Visual Studio and DIS, and then maybe go for GitHub kind of pipeline CI/CD approaches as well. So that's a little bit how you can take your automation scripts from away from that editor and take it to more professional editor, and even take the steps to have more GitHub repositories and CI/CD pipelining around it. Basically taking it to the next level. Now, I want to add two more items to that. So we already took a look at our C# or our DIS plugin in Visual Studio, and we played around with that. I want to have two more use cases. The first one is the user-definable API, and then we also have the Teambots, two smaller examples on more use cases of automation scripts. The use cases of the automation scripts are not so much that I can trigger them inside DataMiner, but they are triggered from the outside world, like a user-defined API I can create with it, or the next one, Teams. What is going to be a little bit different? Well, for the user-defined API, I will have, instead of the run methods, I will have a special method on API trigger. So that's the special entry point. If the automation script is called by the user-defined by an API that I will define, it will basically trigger this kind of methods on API trigger, and typically I want to return something. So there is also a return thing that I can do here to give the return values back to the API that asked something to the DataMiner system. So this way you can very easily expose information from the DataMiner system, gather any kind of information in the DataMiner system, prepare it in some shape or form, and give it back to the API. And you can expose that really as a user-defined API. And that's exactly what we will do in this exercise. And just to get a hang of it, I will close this Visual Studio. You can save that, whatever, and start with a brand new solution, which is going to be a create new project here. So I'll create a new project. And one of those DataMiner examples that are in there is here a user-defined API. Note there is also a very popular GQI ad hoc data source. A little bit similar, you can fetch information from the outside world and then return it for more use, like in GQI, for instance. You can play around with that. It's the same principle, a little bit, but different ins and outs, you could say. So I'm going to go for the user-defined API, hit next, and call this API example. Okay. User-defined API for CPU. So I'm gonna try to expose something to the external world so that they can fetch the current CPU utilization, or maybe the status of a service, or the signal level, or the bit rate. So you can, or a whole set of parameters. I'm just going to keep it simple. The CPU load we have here available that we used before. I want to expose it through an API. Okay, let's create that one. So it's going to be quite similar, you could say, to the CPU. So we're going to get the CPU from our DataMiner agent, but the return value will be a little bit different. So we don't need to worry too much about all the other stuff in there. So let's collapse that and keep it simple. And we only are interested in our C# thing there. And what is in there? So let's take a look. Instead of the run script, we have the on API trigger. It also gets the engine object. You can get some input data as well. And you need to get some response back to the party that called the API. In this case, it says received request for router with body and with an OK message. We're going to tweak that a little bit by taking the CPU load of my, and maybe I can just go back to my DataMiner cube, go for that CPU and say, I'm going to copy that, and I'm just going to paste that in here. I'm just going to not worry too much about all the other stuff. So I'm gonna from the engine object ask or to find my element, my DataMiner agent, and then I will get from the parameter an object that is going to be the CPU, the 350. I'm not really going to do a generate information, or I can do a generate information message, but I want to tweak the response a little bit, and I want to say like, okay, the current CPU is, and then I want to put in there the CPU. Let me just add, oh, that's not needed. And then nothing else. All the other things I don't really worry about those. Oh, maybe I can add percentage behind it. Add units, always add units. Current CPU is that much percentage. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. Well, the generate information events, don't really worry about that. So I can save that. I could have again put it in a GitHub repository, but I'm not going to do that again. I'm just going to go and immediately go for the XML, click on XML and publish it onto my DataMiner system. So now I have this automation script, or it is on the way, onto my DataMiner system. So it's still, yeah, building the package and uploading. Okay, there it is. So I have my user-defined API for CPU. So now instead of doing the regular execute, which typically makes the run method execute, but here we have an on API trigger. So we're going to go for that configure API. So let's take a look at that in the slides before we go in there. So we created our automation script where we return a certain value. So now we're going to go to that configure API. If I click on that configure API, I'm able to basically, there are two important things. You need to define the URL on where you can call this method, and you need to define a token, like a security password thingy, to be able to ask this or to call this method. So if I click on the configure, so you have your script name, which is by default there. You can give it an optional description. The URL is going to be important, so I will create an import. We're going to go for the API on API trigger, so that's what we did. There is also a possibility to execute the run method that we have in existing automation scripts, but the problem with that one is that there is no possibility to return any output. So not the most ideal way. It's just to trigger something, but not to get a response back. So you need to typically go for that on API trigger. And then we can create a new token, which allows us to get that secure password secret kind of thing to be able to call this method. You can see that this automation script is confirmed or is configured as an API, and then we will be able to call it. So let's expose this user-defined API for CPU. So we click on the configure API, and description, I don't really worry about that for now, and I will go for /CPU, for instance. So it's going to be my host name, so that's like the, you can see it there, demo bar training on DataMiner.services /API /custom /CPU, I say. Keep it simple. And I will create a token so that I'm able to do a training test here. So I'll give it a meaningful name. That's just a test for the training. Generate the token, and be careful, this secret, again, this is a secret. You should not share it with anybody because you will be able to call the API with this token. This will be removed again after creating this video, so don't worry about security for this training. But typically you don't want to share this with anybody except the party that needs to be able to call this API. So for security reasons, this will only be shown once, so make sure you copy it, or you click copy and paste. It's now on your clipboard. You can never get it back. It's gone. There's no way to get it back. If you want to get it back, you need to create a new one. That's the only way to get it back. But I still have it on my clipboard, so I have it conveniently available. So create, and you will see there is now an icon next to it. I can click again, configure API, and I can see it's configured on the CPU, and I can see the tokens that are available there. Okay, but now I want to check it out. How can I check it out? Well, there are two ways. I will just go first with the Postman version. So if you have the Postman application installed on your computer, you can use Postman. I'll show you later on an example also with a web-based version or alternative. So I already in Postman said that I wanted to do a get, and I pre-populated it with my URL, https demo-bart-training on DataMiner.service /API /custom. So I still need to specify my name I chose /CPU. And you need to specify a authorization. So that's a bearer token. And here is that security token that I need to paste that is on my clipboard. So if I paste my security authentication token there, I will be able to authenticate myself, and I should be able to send the request and get a CPU back. And indeed, I have my current CPU is 6.8, and if I wait a little bit and then I do it again, it's 4.3 now. So this is really updating and getting the new value each time I click on there. So that's how an external API or an external application can call an API that we custom make for this purpose. And behind the scenes, it's basically an automation script which is being triggered. The automation script is gathering all the information and is building that response as we defined it in our response that we have here. The current CPU load is this with an OK status code. Okay, there is that other way because in the slides, at the end of the slides, there is an example also on this. And instead of Postman, it is using a web page I have open here. And let me see if I can do it on here as well. CPU. And it's an authorization. Then you need to add two header fields, not parameters, but header fields, and I need to paste in there not the previous token, but this token, an authorization with bearer space, the token that you have on your clipboard, the content type application /JSON. I'm not a robot, and send the request, not authorized. This page was probably a little bit outdated, so let me go for CPU and then add extra headers there, authorization, bearer, not this one, but the bearer space, my new token. There's still another one in my, and content type application JSON. It's still in my autocomplete, so it went rather fast. So let's see if the send request now works. Yes, it's a little bit confusing. It says not authorized, but it's actually probably refreshing on this website. So now the current CPU is 3.1. So if I say again, I'm not a robot, and send a request again, it's now 5.5. So you also have this web page to specify the URL and specify the authentication and content type in the header fields with the bearer and the application JSON. So it's similar as the Postman, but the Postman was a little bit easier because certain things were already pre-populated, you could say. I created an automation script in Visual Studio. I published it onto my DataMiner system, and then I said create configure API. But if I have like lots of these automation scripts and lots of these APIs that are being created, there is, well, here is the explanation on the bearer token on Postman with the URL, which I just did. There is in System Center an overview of all the exposed user-defined APIs. So, and there you can see all of your automation scripts that are published on a certain URL and the description and the script attached to it. And you can also create it from there, basically. And all the tokens that you created. So you can also manage tokens from there. So let me go to my DataMiner system, go to Apps, System Center, and there go to user-defined APIs. Indeed, I have my /CPU that I created. I can create some more of them from here as well. And I have one token that I created for now, and I can manage it over here as well. So I can also create new tokens here and give it a name. And you can also then define, if you have multiple APIs, you can define which tokens can call which APIs if you have more than one API. So with one token, you can allow multiple APIs to be called. Okay, so that's how you can easily publish. Let me go back and see an overview of all your APIs that you created in your system. One final example is the Teams bot, and I'm actually going to reuse a little bit my CPU example again. So that's another way of leveraging the C# automation scripts, but now from Teams. So from Teams, I can already, as we have seen before in the fundamentals, we can install the bots, the DataMiner bots, and then we have certain standard commands that we can communicate with the DataMiner system, like show me the alarms, show me the elements. Let me see if I have I have my cube here open. So show DMS is just to show you're currently in the organization BART training connected to your DataMiner system. I can say like show elements or show alarms. I don't have any alarms, so let me show elements. So I can see there are some anomaly. My DataMiner agent, for instance, the element my DataMiner agent is on there. It's an alarm level normal, 0 alarms, so it's doing good. So I do have some standard commands that are available, but now I want to extend it by doing here, you can see it here, so we can do a show and a run of a command. So how does that work? The run of a custom command. Well, you can create your own custom commands if you place the automation script in a folder with the name bot. That's it. That's how easy it is. Well, maybe one more thing is that you need to also define an engine.add script output if you want to have some return value returns to the output, because if I ask something, I want to get some confirmation if that's being done, yes or no. So what I will do is I will move my CPU script that I created before into a bot folder, and I'll adapt a little bit and use the engine.add script output instead of generating, or maybe next to the generating of the information event. So let's go into my cube, and let's go to the automation, and let's reuse my C# automation script, which is currently only generating an information event. So if I execute this one once more, I will see the CPU load is being added into an information event, but I want to also call it from Teams. So I will create in the automation script a new folder there with the name bot. Oh, I clicked on creating new automation script, discard, yes. And I will move the CPU into the folder bot, so you can just drag your CPU script you created before, drop it into that folder, and now it is added into that folder. And I will need to do a little bit of tweaking here, and I will need to add an engine, not only generate information event, but I will add that script output there. And that script output asks for a kind of key value pair. So I will do a little bit similar as the one that I have in my information event. Current CPU is, I'll type it out, space, and then I'll also add the value, then CPU dot to string. Okay. Do I have any syntactical problems? No errors. So now I can, it will also give me a return to the bot. So I saved this one. So I didn't change a lot. I only placed it into the bot folder so that it's now available from within my Teams bot. And it will also give me a return value so that I at least know what the current value there is. So let me go to my Teams. And let's see if that works. Run space CPU. That's how easy it should be. It could not find any CPU in my demo system. So let me make sure this is saved. It is in there. I did have this before. Let me execute it to see. Run CPU. Some refresh. No. All right, so let me see, change DMS. So let's go back to my BERT training. And it's only one system, so let me see, run CPU, if it's a refresh problem on this side. No, so it's a refresh problem on this side. Let me make sure that the CPU, let me maybe rename it to make sure that it's definitely in. Yeah, you can see it's now creating it over there in that folder, so it was not correctly moved to that folder apparently for one or another reason. Let me save. Yeah, now it is in that folder. Not sure what happened there. A glitch in the matrix. So I renamed it in the meantime now to CPU3. So it was not correctly moved to that folder for one or another reason. So let me go back to this one. Now it says run CPU3, and then it should work. So you can see the command CPU3. There's no description on it. Are you sure you want to run it? Yes, I want to run it. And the output is current CPU is 4.3. So, and I can immediately run it again by clicking again on that button, and then it asks me again for a confirmation, and now it's 5.4. Just out of curiosity, let me see if the CPU, now the CPU is also in there. All right, so that's how you can call it from the Teams bot. If you put it in a folder bot, you might need to do some kind of trick there to make sure that it isn't there. Apologies for that. And make sure you add that add script output to give some return value into your themes there. So that's how easy it is. Where's my slides? To make a existing script available from themes. You just make sure it's in any of the bots folder. You can have multiple ones of them. And if you want to return something to give some more meaningful information back to the user, you add that script output method there to return something to the user. So the result is as I've just done, but I did it with a CPU. Okay, the exercise is a user-definable API. We created one like that, so you can take another look at that. We used the Postman, and I did also use the CodeBunker HTTP request, which is online available. So I used that one as a second example to call my user-definable API. So as you can see in this module, we really took it to the next level. So we made some professional C# automation scripts. We even did it from Visual Studio. We even did it with a GitHub repository, and we even did it with some CI/CD, or at least it was a basic pipeline we created. But you can further build upon this knowledge and add more knowledge by looking at docs. We went for the user-definable API and the themes bot. There's also the GKY ad hoc data sources. So there's more that can be done with automation. But you already get where we are going with this, and you get a starting point here, you could say. So I hope you enjoyed this session, and I hope to see you in the next one.